In recent days, the situation on the global economic stage has begun to escalate rapidly. After Donald Trump's administration announced the introduction of new 100% tariffs on imports from China, a wave of anxiety swept through American business. But the hardest hit came to one of the world's largest companies, Amazon. According to the Wall Street Journal, the company's management held several emergency meetings with key shareholders and executives to discuss unprecedented measures that only recently seemed impossible. The issue is not only about revising logistics routes, but also about potentially reducing some shipments from China, a move that could alter the entire global structure of e-commerce. Insiders close to the board of directors report that the situation inside Amazon is more tense than ever. After the tariffs take effect, the cost of delivering goods produced in China may rise on average by 25 to 40%. For a company where every minute and every cent count, this is a blow to the very core of its model. One top manager, who wished to remain anonymous, stated that Amazon is a system built on speed and volume, and if even one element starts to falter, everything collapses. According to Bloomberg, in the first days after the tariffs were imposed, Amazon's largest Chinese suppliers suspended shipments of goods to warehouses in California, Texas, and New Jersey while awaiting clarification on the new rates. As a result, part of the company's warehouse lines are operating at limited capacity, and order processing times in some regions have already increased. According to the Financial Times, Amazon's leadership is preparing a plan under the working title Project Balance, aimed at redirecting production and logistics flows from the east to the south, specifically to India, Vietnam, and Mexico. However, analysts note that such a restructuring requires months, not weeks. The White House, commenting on the developments, stated that the tariff policy is aimed solely at protecting national interests. Trump himself, in an interview with Fox Business, emphasized that the United States does not want to harm American companies, but simply demands fair trade conditions, saying that China has been profiting off the US for decades and that this has now come to an end. However, for Amazon, these words sound like an alarm bell. The company is a global player, and any barriers between the United States and China inevitably strike at its operations. It is in China that the lion's share of Amazon suppliers and contract manufacturers are concentrated, providing products ranging from electronics and technology to clothing and accessories. Beijing, in turn, has not stood aside. China's Ministry of Commerce called Washington's actions blatant economic aggression and threatened reciprocal measures. According to the South China Morning Post, Chinese regulators have already begun considering limiting American IT companies' access to certain logistics facilities in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Among the affected entities could be Amazon Web Services, the company's cloud division that serves dozens of Chinese enterprises. Analysts at Morgan Stanley warn that a prolonged trade standoff between Washington and Beijing could lead to a new wave of turbulence in the technology sector. Amid mounting pressure, the company is taking emergency measures. According to Reuters, a crisis response team has been created in Seattle, including executives from logistics, finance, Amazon Web Services, and international operations. The main task is to maintain uninterrupted platform operation and minimize the impact of tariffs on end consumers. However, sources inside the company admit that this is becoming increasingly difficult. Shipping costs from Asia are rising, contracts with maritime carriers are being renegotiated, and some Chinese factories are demanding advance payments to offset the new tariff-related expenses. According to one of Amazon's regional managers in Hong Kong, some suppliers simply cannot operate under the old conditions. They are forced to halt production lines until a new agreement is reached. Meanwhile, think tanks in Washington are sounding the alarm. The Brookings Institution notes that the United States' dependence on Chinese goods remains critical, and no tariffs can solve this problem instantly. Experts warn that if the escalation continues, not only Amazon, but the entire US e-commerce ecosystem, from Walmart to eBay, will come under pressure. Amazon's European partners are also feeling the strain. After the start of the tariff standoff, the company's operations in Germany, France, and the Netherlands began experiencing delivery delays, especially in categories such as electronics and household goods. Representatives of the company's European branches officially claim these are only temporary disruptions, but behind the scenes, they admit that uncertainty is growing by the day. According to Deutsche Welle, the European Commission plans to request clarification from the United States regarding the new tariffs, as they may affect not only American but also European companies that use Chinese components in joint products. Experts point out that the current situation is a symptom of a much deeper issue. Over the past decade, the world has built an economy based on mutual interdependence between the United States and China. Any interference, even politically motivated, instantly triggers a chain reaction. The White House, aware of the potential consequences, is seeking ways to mitigate the impact. According to Politico, a temporary deferral of tariffs is being considered for strategically important companies, among which Amazon may be included. However, this move could provoke a sharp reaction from other corporations demanding similar exemptions. Inside the Trump administration, there is no unity. Some advisors insist on maintaining toughness to the end, while others propose a more flexible approach toward technology giants. Meanwhile, Beijing is preparing for a long game. Chinese media increasingly publish reports claiming that the era of American dependence on Chinese manufacturing is ending, but experts believe this is mostly political rhetoric. In reality, China is also suffering losses. Declining export volumes have hit hundreds of factories working on orders from Amazon and other American companies. According to CNBC, some hedge funds have already begun reallocating assets from American tech companies to European and Asian markets. At the same time, there is growing investor interest in Indian and Vietnamese IT firms, seen as potential beneficiaries of the supply chain realignment. Inside Amazon itself, tensions are growing. Some executives advocate an aggressive diversification strategy, accelerating production transfers, opening new hubs in India and Mexico, and signing direct contracts with alternative suppliers. Others urge caution, warning that a sudden shift in logistics could create even greater chaos. Meanwhile, pressure on the White House is increasing in Congress. Several Republican senators traditionally loyal to Trump have expressed concerns that the tariff policy could harm small businesses dependent on Amazon. According to the Washington Post, a series of consultations is planned in the coming weeks between the administration and representatives of major corporations, including Apple, Tesla, and Amazon, to assess the real consequences of the tariff war. On the international stage, anxiety is growing. European analysts note that the United States risks undermining its own technological leadership. If giants like Amazon are forced to cut investments and redistribute resources, Asian competitors, especially Alibaba and JD.com, stand to gain. Yet for millions of customers around the world, Amazon remains a symbol of stability. The site is running, deliveries continue, and most users barely notice the underlying turbulence. But inside the company, it is well understood that this is only the tip of the iceberg. If the trade confrontation between the United States and China drags on, the business model built on global interconnection may require a radical overhaul. The world once again faces a choice: preserve the principles of open trade or descend into an era of economic protectionism. And Amazon is merely a mirror reflecting the fragility of today's global order. A company built on the economy of speed, now discovering that time itself has become its greatest enemy.